I'm with that Magi, not philosophy. See, a lot of people, you know, you run into trouble when you following these certain so-called spiritual leaders, but these spiritual leaders don't have roots in everything in anything. Um, and they're just philosophers or theorists. They come with theories or they come with philosophies. They're not in the field with the practice of any sort. You know what I'm saying? And this often leads to a scattering mentality a lot of times of people that follow them, where you're in a constant search for who you are and a constant search for identity. But let me tell you something. When you follow people that are more um, stable in traditions, it helps you more to find who you are, where you belong. It's just natural because why? The philosophers and the theorists, they still be finding who they don't know who they are. That's why they so easy to knock them off. That's why they're so easy to knock them off because they don't have a root. A young Pharaoh doesn't have a root. A Rashad Jamal doesn't have the root. These people are everywhere. One second they'll talk about Orishas, and then the next second they'll talk about aliens. They don't have a bounce. And then the next second they'll talk about chakra. They don't have a bounce, and they talk about so many things. They never really master just one thing. So it's only but so far in depth they can even give you on certain topics. They might have one or two things that they really specialize in that thing, and then the other stuff is just things they just pulling out the air to keep content going as a so-called spiritual leader. You see? And this is where the problems run in. I say always, I'm with that Magi, not philosophy, because the Magi is the results of the philosophy. The Magi is the result of understanding the science and the theories behind things. That's the Magi, the part where you working the field and getting a fruit from that of which you've learned. The Magi. And this is why I post receipts every now and then just to remind people about that Magi. I try to post a few receipts out of the month. I could really just flood y'all with receipts every week if I wanted, but I don't do that. Couple times out the month, I hit a receipt just to remind y'all about the Magi aspect of it. You see? So, you know, you guys have to beware of these theorists and these philosophers that's passing as a spiritual leader because they're not real practitioner. You understand? Like I say, a young pharaoh is not a practitioner. Nature Boy is not a practitioner. Rashad Jamal is not a practitioner. Brother Polite is not a practitioner. These people are not practitioners, but they teaching spirituality stuff. And that's why they're so easy to knock them down. When you're rooted, it's hard because a tree without roots can just blow over. A plant without roots can get thrown anywhere. It's not hard. And the same thing applies with these so-called spiritual leaders. And that's the truth of the matter. Y'all have to beware when you following people that don't have a true root in something, because they can lead you off a cliff right with them. It's easier for them to fall off. That's why you see, a lot of times when they hit a certain point of success, they could just go crazy. It's easy for them. It's easy for somebody to knock them off, because why? They don't have a root. The root is not strong. They can easily go crazy. And this is what you see. People ask me all the time about the young pharaoh thing, and damn, he was so high. How was you able to knock him down? Because his mind was, As he was climbing, Pharaoh had no route. His mind was going anywhere that the wind would blow it. And then it started to go into that Republican Party, and he started to imbue those talking points on y'all. You seen that. And when that started to happen, a lot of things about his demeanor started to change. You know, he ended up disrespecting a brujo. Why? Because his head was blown. And then I do what brujos do. And down go Pharaoh. See? This is what happens though. They easy to pluck them. Why? Because they lose their self. It's not easy to pluck somebody that's etched in a tradition. It's not easy to pluck somebody that is straight Haitian voodoo. That's not easy. It's not easy to pluck somebody that's straight Ifa. It's not. Because why? They're grounded in a tradition. They're going to miss a lot of the pitfalls that everybody else can fall in, because they can blow where the wind send them. One minute they can be talking spiritual, then they'll jump into a whole nother lane. They'll get to talking about Democrat, Republican shit, conservative, liberal type shit, and suck you right with them because they adopted a new ideology. See, when you ground it, you can learn things from, you know, new ideologies and shit like that, but you often don't get sucked into it. You know, where now you just take on that whole party's talking point. Because why? A lot of that party's talking point might conflict with your root. Like a lot of the shit I see in America politically, it conflicts with my roots. All of it does. The liberals conflict with my roots at points. The conservatives conflict with my roots at points. The Democrats do. The Republicans do. All of this shit starts to conflict at some point with my roots. And so that's how I can only take things with a grain of salt. And this is how I can remain steady and remain building in a way that's productive and not get wrapped into the dumb shit. But a lot of your spiritual leaders, they get wrapped right along with it. The root. Where's the root? A lot of times, you know, they get you to following these philosophies that have real Magi that's supposed to be behind it. And then you go experimenting and finding yourself in trouble and finding your life always in chaos, finding your life always at the bottom of things, finding your financial situations always messed up. And listen, y'all, when you are truly aligned spiritually, your money shouldn't be fucked up. I'm sorry, I gotta tell y'all. Money is just energy. Money is just don't get caught up on fiat currency. Please don't. That's just the name. Money is energy. And that energy should be creating a stability in your life, no matter if it came in the form of cowrie shells, as it did hundreds of years ago, whether it came in the form of trading beads, whether it came in the form of having farmland, whether it came in the form of having cattle, or whether it came in the form of having a dollar. It do the same shit. It does the same shit. So when you aligning yourself, you shouldn't be so fucked up when you aligned, because money is just another energy. It's actually a heavily feminine energy, divine feminine, often when we're talking about money. So it's just another energy that comes when you're in alignment with, you know, the world around you. Everything else should become in alignment with it. And that includes the energy that comes with abundance, which is what you can perceive as money. But you getting caught up on these fiat currencies and the yen and the dollar and the euro. Yo, it's not even about that, because 100 years from now, it might be a whole nother fucking system. But it still does the same thing, is my point. The same thing that the dollar do right now is the same thing that a cowrie shell did back then. Like, come on. It's the same thing that any other thing that we were using as currency was doing. That's what I'm telling y'all. So, when you're following these people, these philosophies often don't translate to tangible things. It often does not translate to forward progress in ways. You know what I'm saying? A lot of it is just based on mentalism, where they take, mentalism is more so another thing that we can say started ancient, but right now it's not so. The way that it's getting put is whitewashed. See, because mentalism was just one aspect of a greater system of what the ancients, were diving into. And that's really a whole nother video. But just to touch it, you know, we can even start with the seven hermetic principles or the seven teachings of Thoth, where, you know, all is mental, right? But there were also six other principles that went with that. You see, what white people did was they just took that one and they ran with that. And now y'all running with it. But then what about all the other parts? What about all the other principles? Right? And not just that, what about the principles that's not in that? What about the principle that's not in the seven hermetic principles? What about those? You see? Because this is now when you start to understand the Magi and you start to understand indigenous practices on a global scale, on a more universal scale. This is the shit that be missing, and then it's a shame because a lot of times when you get when a lot of times if you get somebody that have even gone through certain rites of passages, they might abuse it. So it's a tricky world in this spiritual community. That's why when you find people that's true to a practice and they're giving you honest information about it, you should stick with those people. And there are people like that in this community. It's just that you guys have to do your due diligence. But there's a lot of people like that, but those people are not the ones a lot of times with 1 million subscribers. Why? Because the things that they're teaching are very specific towards a certain tradition. And so it may not relate to everybody, but just believe they're out there. It's just y'all glancing over them. You know what I'm saying? To go to people who are speaking more broadly to touch everybody. But it's a shame because when you even do get some of the ones that went through the right passages, they could even abuse the tradition. And then so you get people like Isis Wisdom, who actually went through with certain processes of initiation, but then can still abuse it just like a pastor, you know, just like a priest from any other tradition. Because why? When you even get initiated into these traditional practices, you still have to do the part of learning. Is nobody just gonna just give you all the juice in one paragraph? You still have to go through the process of applying yourself and of furthering the Magi aspect, where you bringing things can make them physically manifest. And everybody is not willing to do that. A lot of people just want to get a title just so that they can run with that title and dupe people into following them. And they're not even going to master the thing that they paid the initiation for. They just going to run with the title and get the clout from the title or get the money out of the title. And then that's good enough for them. So you get that a lot as well. And so, yeah, man, I acknowledge the fact that, it's hard out here for people that want to learn, but that's why people like me are around to help to guide you guys from the pitfalls and kick out information for you. That's why I set up my mentorship so people can join. And as they're growing in their path, I can help to direct them on various traditions that can fit them, things like that. This is why I do it, because I understand. I'm out here. I get it. I see it. I speak on it all the time. But, these spiritual leaders with no roots, they will have you blowing in the wind just like them. Believe me. Believe it. You better believe it. So yeah, fam, with that said, beware. Beware out here following people that don't have a spiritual root. Um, Try to find out their backgrounds, where they came from as far as that, because it's important. It's very important, you know. It's very important because it shows if there's a stability there in what they're teaching you. This is how people like Dr. York, Dr. Malachi York, were able to do the heinous things they did. This is how cult leaders were able to do the heinous things they did in general. Because why? They can get people believing into one thing from their charisma, and then they can switch it, or they can merge things together to suit their need. So you've seen it with Nature Boy. When it was convenient, he merged Islam into his talking points, which is what he used to subdue his wives, right? So he used Islam to get over with the women, but then he come and he used things like Ifa um, to try to big himself into, like he said, he's 60% Aludumare, right? And then, he'd take points from the Bible to make it look like he have a deeper wisdom, right? Like he would just take from everything. Dr. York did the same thing. He would take from different religious institutions and he would add it in. A lot of these people do this. A lot of these people do this. It's just now you seeing it in a more modern form with various spiritual things. Now you're seeing it with things like chakras, where you'll have certain people, like Rashad Jamal's spiritual elder. Um, he got caught out there for abusing women, but what was he doing with those women? He was utilizing things like chakra healing and stuff to be able to touch them sexually and things like that. A lot of these people, they start to follow, they start to take these information and they start to twist it to what they want it to be. So they'll come to a woman and get to talking and, oh, I can activate your root chakra by coming inside of you like this. And, they start to get into them positions. They start to put you in those. So you guys have to be careful, man. Be careful of these people, because they be bending shit to fit what they talking about or their motives. So that's why they take so much as well. Because they need this to fit that. They need that to fit that. And they don't care how they piece that puzzle together to mislead you. They'll do it. So yeah, be on the lookout, y'all. I'll get with y'all on the next one. I shall.